Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever daytime you're having at the moment. How are you guys? Good morning, Abbas. How's everyone doing today? Glad to hear that. Hi, Susanna. Welcome to Takeaway English class. Morning, Masaraham. Bit tired. Morning username. How are you guys? How's your week been so far? Okay, so everyone, if you are a first-time listener, if you are just joining our channel, we are learning phrasal verbs, or to be precise, grammar behind phrasal verbs, right? And this is one of my absolute favorite topics, phrasal verbs. I also call them puzzles of English. However, people who were attending my previous classes and people who are on my Telegram, they already know, they have an idea how phrasal verbs are formed, right? During our previous live lessons, I already explained the importance of phrasal verbs, right? How we form phrasal verbs. We had a look at different dialogues. And I explained everything from the beginning, meaning basics for beginners. Excellent, exactly, username. Because I always tell my students, if they want to sound natural, they should start using phrasal verbs early on. Because if you don't use phrasal verbs, there are two possibilities. Either you are in a parliament giving a speech to the prime minister using only very formal words, or you just started learning English and your level is A0, because even A1 students should start using phrasal verbs, because wake up is a phrasal verb, sit down is a phrasal verb, right? So, for example, here, in the first dialogue, a person only uses formal words, right? Such as encountered, discovered, terminated, establish, or relinquish. They are very formal. And usually in everyday situations, in casual conversations, we don't use these formal words, right? Instead, we use phrasal verbs, such as instead of encountered, we can say ran into. Let's catch up, exactly. Instead of discovered, we use found out or find out. Instead of terminated, we can use gave up, right? Instead of establish, set up. Because if you start using formal words with your friends in everyday situations, it sounds weird. Okay? So if your goal is to sound more natural and fluent in English, you should use phrasal verbs. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but what about other informal everyday words? I don't always need to sound formal. I can just use other informal standard words instead of phrasal verbs. Yes, it's true. There are plenty of informal or everyday words in English that can express the same general meaning as a phrasal verb. So then why do we still use phrasal verbs? Here's the thing. Phrasal verbs don't just say what happened. They often show how it happened, how you feel about it, or how intense it was. They add a special touch. They help you express your thoughts and emotions in a way that's natural, deep, and super clear, all in just a few words. For example, let's say just a normal everyday word, quit. Quit. Quit means to stop something, right? It's a normal everyday word, and of course we can use it. We can say he quit the team. He stopped that doing something, like, meaning he stopped, he quit the team. But what if instead of quit, he quit the team? But what if instead of quit, we use give up and say he gave up on the team? Here, now you feel it. There's a struggle, effort, or disappointment. Here, quit is general. He quit the team. He stopped. Nothing special. But if we add gave up, you feel a struggle, effort, or disappointment, right? So again, phrasal verbs add a special touch. They help you express your thoughts and emotions in a way that's natural, deep, and super clear, all in just a few words, like here, gave up. Okay? Another example, leave. For example, he left the meeting. He left the meeting. Simple, no emotion, just go away from a place. Right? He just left the meeting. That's it. But if we, instead of left, say walk out, he walked out. He walked out of the meeting. He walked out of the meeting. You can feel the tension, probably some drama, right? So instead of leave, if you use walked out, it gives you a special touch. Okay? And of course, guys, there's nothing wrong with these words. Of course, you can use them. Of course, you can use quit. Of course, you can use leave. But if your goal is to sound more natural, more fluent, you should use phrasal verbs. You should start using them. Okay? So that's why avoiding phrasal verbs isn't just about missing vocabulary. It's about missing the real voice of English. Walked out of the World Cup yesterday, right? Morning, Gawa. Okay. However, guys, if you are just joining, if you are a first-time listener, during my previous live lessons, I already explained basics for beginners. That's it. That is how we form phrasal verbs. How we form phrasal verbs. What is a verb or what is a particle, etc. On Monday, at the same time, I'm going to explain everything one more time from the beginning, okay? So you can join our Monday's class if you want to understand how phrasal verbs are formed, because today we're going to learn transitive and intransitive phrasal verbs. Okay. Now, before we move on to the transitive and intransitive phrasal verbs, on my Telegram, I share useful, commonly used, must-know phrasal verbs every day. Exactly, username, phrasal verbs add a bit more life to the conversation. Exactly. I can't contact you. You mean how, right? Is it Xion? Okay, so guys, if you cannot find my Telegram channel, you can always send me a direct message on TikTok, direct, okay? So I can send you my channels personally. Send me direct message on TikTok, okay? On YouTube, if you want to learn relative clauses, there are all the live lessons, recorded live lessons on my YouTube. If you want to know how relative clauses work, like who, that, whom, whose, which, etc., All the live lessons you can find on my YouTube channel. When it comes to the book, this book, or the book about relative clauses, you can find in my TikTok profile. And the group live lessons, online lessons, not live lessons, in my profile. You can find everything in my profile, meaning my Telegram channel, YouTube channel, books, online classes, all about me, and much more, okay? When it comes to the Telegram, I share exercises from the book there, useful phrasal verbs, and of course you can always ask me questions if you don't understand something. You can always provide your example sentences and practice regularly, okay? And of course, if you don't understand something, if you cannot understand something, you can always send me a direct message. If you cannot communicate in English, you can always communicate in Italian, German, Russian, Georgian, and English, of course, okay? So I can send you a direct message personally in your language, okay? Okay, so let's get started and learn transitive and intransitive phrasal verbs. What are intransitive phrasal verbs? I also call them stand-alone phrasal verbs. An intransitive phrasal verb is a phrasal verb that does not need a direct object after it to be grammatically correct. What is an object? What is an object? Object is someone or something, the receiver of the action. Like here, I eat an apple. Apple is an object. Some of the phrasal verbs always need an object to be grammatically correct and to complete the sentence. Also, normal verbs. Some of the normal verbs need an object to complete the sentence, like here. I eat an apple. Okay? The same goes with phrasal verbs. However, some of the phrasal verbs don't need an object, like an apple, to be grammatically correct. I met my friends. Exactly, my friends is an object, right? Receiver of the action. So object, receiver of the action. Something is done to them, right? My friends, for example, or an apple. They are objects. I eat an apple. Apple receives the action, right? So it's an object. Now, some of the phrasal verbs don't need an object to be grammatically correct. They are stand-alone phrasal verbs. I like to call them stand-alone phrasal verbs. Stand-alone phrasal verbs, intransitive phrasal verbs. For example, I got up. What do you think? Do I need something or someone to complete the sentence, or the sentence is already complete? I got up. Should I say I got up a bed, or I got up from the chair, or I got up of chair? Do I need here an object to complete the sentence, or the sentence is complete already? Exactly, Awa. Thank you. I got up the bed is not correct because I got up already tells you that. Okay? So you don't need here the object to complete the sentence. Yes, of course, we can add time. We can say I got up at 6 o'clock, but at 6 o'clock is not an object because objects answer the question who or what. Does 6 o'clock answer the questions who or what? Exactly, who or what. Here, 6 o'clock doesn't answer the questions who or what. It answers the question when, right? So it's not an object. Okay? Or maybe I wake up at 6 o'clock. Should I say I wake up my eyes? Or when I say I wake up, you already know that I opened my eyes. Right? So these phrasal verbs don't need objects to complete the sentence to be grammatically correct. Because when you say I got up, when you say I wake up, you already mean that. You don't need an object. You just need a subject, right? I, or she, or he, or they at the beginning, but not after the phrasal verb. So when you don't need an object to complete the sentence, and when a phrasal verb doesn't need an object to complete the sentence, they are intransitive phrasal verbs. Okay? For example, phrasal verb wake up. Subject plus phrasal verb. No object. I wake up at 6 o'clock. It describes the action that happens by itself or to the object, to the subject. So again, it happens by itself or to the object. Because I'm not waking someone else, I'm talking about my own actions. I do the action alone. Now, when it comes to the transitive and intransitive phrasal verbs, there are 3 categories: transitive phrasal verbs, intransitive phrasal verbs, and phrasal verbs that can be both transitive and intransitive. Okay? Here, wake up can be both. If I'm talking about my own actions, hi Magdalena. Is it Magdalena, right? So when I'm talking about my own actions, I don't need an object. I wake up at 6 o'clock. But if I'm waking up someone else, then I need an object. So I wake up doesn't need an object. But if I wake up someone else, I have someone that receives the action, then I need an object. I wake up my brother every day, for example, right? Then I need an object. Now, the thing is, I want you to know difference between transitive and intransitive phrasal verbs is because intransitive phrasal verbs are always inseparable, okay? If you were attending my previous classes, we already know that there are two types of phrasal verbs, separable and inseparable phrasal verbs. And we already learned the structure, word order, right? Of separable and inseparable phrasal verbs. Now remember, intransitive phrasal verbs are always inseparable. That makes sense, right? Because we need something here to move words around, to put between a verb and a particle. Since we don't have anything, exactly username, when it comes to the intransitive phrasal verbs, like I wake up, it's an intransitive phrasal verb. And we should follow fixed word order. Why? Because when we separate phrasal verbs, we need something, right? An object. Because when we separate phrasal verbs, we can put the object here, here, or we can use a pronoun. But since we don't have anything like an object, we cannot separate these phrasal verbs. So intransitive phrasal verbs always use fixed word order. That is subject, verb, and a particle. Now, exactly hour. If I wake up someone else, that's why I told you that phrasal verb wake up can be both transitive and intransitive. Okay? If it's intransitive, we cannot separate it. But now let's see if we are waking up someone else. I wake up my brother every day, for example. I wake up my brother every day. Here, phrasal verb becomes transitive. Why? Because we have an object, my brother. Now, of course, we can separate it and say, I wake my brother up. Wake up. Okay? Then we follow flexible word order, right? I wake my brother up, or instead of my brother, because as I always say, we are often lazy when we speak, right? and we try to skip some words or make them shorter. So instead of saying my brother, if the listener already knows who we are talking about, we can say I wake him up. Here I've used pronoun instead of my brother. I wake him up every day, right? So when a phrasal verb wake up becomes transitive, when we use my brother or someone, right? Then, of course, we can use a flexible word order. We can say, I wake up my brother. We can say, I wake my brother up. We can say, I wake him up. Okay? We have three options to separate these phrasal verbs because it sounds really natural and fluent when you use phrasal verbs, and especially if you separate them. When you use pronouns like him, like her, instead of saying I pick my children, I pick up my children, if you say I pick them up, or if you say I pick my children up, right? It sounds more natural rather than saying I pick up my children. Yeah, of course, again, guys, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with saying I pick up my children. It's grammatically correct. All I want you to know is that to sound more natural, more fluent, it's really amazing when people start using phrasal verbs and then they start separate them, using them separately, using separable and inseparable phrasal verbs correctly. Okay? So, intransitive phrasal verb, wake up, we follow a fixed word order. If we use an object, then we can use flexible word order. Okay? Here I've got examples of intransitive phrasal verbs. For example, take off. Take off means when a plane leaves the ground. This phrasal verb, when it means when a plane leaves the ground, it's always intransitive. Because take off already means that the plane left the ground and started flying. So we don't say the plane takes off the ground. It's incorrect. We don't need here the ground or something to complete the sentence. Because as I told you, phrasal verbs tell you more than just two words. Right? So take off already means that the plane left the ground, started flying. So you don't need the ground here. You can just say the plane takes off, or the plane took off, or the plane is taking off. The listener already understands that the plane left the ground, okay? You don't need here the ground. That is, this phrasal verb is intransitive. Therefore, this phrasal verb is inseparable. You cannot say the plane takes the ground off. No, it's incorrect. Or take the plane off. No, it's incorrect. Okay? The only correct structure when using phrasal verb take off, when it means the plane leaves the ground and starts flying, it is always intransitive. Okay? To show up, to arrive at a place. She showed up at school. Intransitive. Go away, to leave a place. The dog went away. Intransitive. Come over, to visit someone's home. My friend came over yesterday. As you can see, the sentences are complete without objects, right? My friend came over my home. We cannot say that, okay? Because came over already means to visit someone's home. Or fall apart, to break into pieces. The old chair fell apart. Or to break down, to stop working. My car broke down. We don't need an object to complete the sentence. Or drop by, to visit someone for a short time. I will drop by after work. We don't need here, I will drop by your home. It's incorrect. Therefore, all these phrasal verbs are inseparable. Okay? We don't need an object to complete these sentences, these phrasal verbs, and of course, we cannot separate them. Okay? Now, let's take this example. She showed up at school. Is at school a direct object? No. No, even if you see something after phrasal verbs, it does not mean that they are objects, because objects always answer the questions who or what. Here, on the road answers the question where. That is, this is not an object. Or after work. Rosemary, Joseph, to contact you, please. Just send me a direct message on TikTok, okay? Direct message on TikTok. Or if you are interested in my channels, my group courses, or books, or I don't know, you can find all the information in my TikTok profile. If you don't understand something, of course, you can always send me a direct message on TikTok. Okay? So, after work, does it answer the questions who or what? No, right? It answers the question when, or yesterday, when, at school, where, at 7 a.m., when. So they are not objects. Okay? Now, what else I wanted to say is that, do you guys remember during our previous live lessons, I told you that phrasal verbs This particle that we have in phrasal verbs, my students always think that they are always prepositions, but that's not always true. These small words called particles sometimes are prepositions and sometimes are adverbs, right? Now, if you were joining my previous live lessons, can you tell me phrasal verbs with prepositions are transitive or intransitive phrasal verbs? What do you think? Phrasal verbs with prepositions, what do you think are transitive or intransitive phrasal verbs? So if you were attending my previous classes, you will definitely understand if the phrasal verbs with prepositions are transitive or intransitive. What do you think? And of course, guys, if you are just joining, if you are a first-time listener, on Monday at 11, I'm going to explain everything from the beginning. Okay, so make sure you join our live lesson about transitive excellence. Excellent. Very well done. Phrasal verbs with prepositions are always transitive. Why? Because prepositions always need something or someone after them. So, right? They cannot stand alone. Exactly. So, guys, when you understand the grammar behind phrasal verbs, the logic behind phrasal verbs, you understand how they work. You don't get confused when you see phrasal verbs. You understand how they behave and how they work, right? So you can make educated guesses, okay? Because my students avoid using phrasal verbs. Because sometimes they see a phrasal verb that can be separated. Sometimes they see that the phrasal verb cannot be separated and they get confused. But as soon as they understand the logic behind them, then of course they start using phrasal verbs in everyday situations. Okay, so now transitive phrasal verbs. With intransitive phrasal verbs, it's simple. When a phrasal verb doesn't have an object, you already know that they are always inseparable. Because you don't have an object, you cannot separate them. So all the phrasal verbs that are intransitive, they are inseparable. That's it. When it comes to the transitive phrasal verbs, it's a bit trickier because transitive phrasal verbs can be both. They can be separable, they can be inseparable. Again, with wake up. Is it Spanish, right? I don't speak Spanish, but however, I understood your question, meaning how to know when it's a preposition or when it's an adverb, right? Guys, I already explained that in my previous live lessons. Sorry, we don't understand it. However, I got the question. I guess he's asking how to know when there is a preposition in a phrasal verb and when there is an adverb, right? On Monday, guys, if you want to understand the basics, how we form phrasal verbs, difference between idiomatic and literal phrasal verbs, on Monday at 11 a.m. on Monday at 11 a.m. right here on TikTok, I'm gonna explain one more time everything from the beginning, okay? Because today I'm explaining transitive and intransitive phrasal verbs, okay? Okay, so, and again, guys, if you want to practice regularly, you can follow me on Telegram, where I share useful phrasal verbs, idioms, exercises from the book, so you can practice regularly. On my YouTube, for now, there are all the recorded live lessons. Exactly. Exactly, Juan Pablo, right? So on YouTube, guys, on YouTube, you can learn relative clauses. If you want to learn relative clauses, there are all the recorded live lessons where I explain relative clauses. And I'm gonna start uploading live lessons about phrasal verbs as well. Hi, Amal. And yeah, this live lesson will be uploaded. No worries, Amal. I know that. So this live lesson will be uploaded on my YouTube, so you can watch it. I'm talking about transitive and intransitive phrasal verbs. Okay? So, guys, if you want my Telegram channel, my YouTube channel, you can go to my TikTok profile and join us on Telegram and on YouTube. If you're interested in my books, you can find them in my profile, meaning this book. And yeah, when it comes to the online classes, online lessons, everything you can find in my TikTok profile. And if you don't understand something, send me a direct message on TikTok, okay? So, just one more question. Yesterday on Telegram, I shared a phrasal verb to chicken out. To chicken out. Let's throw a chicken. Chicken out. Yesterday, I shared a phrasal verb to chicken out on Telegram. If you are on my Telegram, of course, you already know the meaning of chicken out. The question is this phrasal verb transitive or intransitive phrasal verb? What do you think? Because on Telegram, I shared example sentences using phrasal verb chicken out. So more or less, you understand, right? If this phrasal verb is transitive or intransitive phrasal verb. What do you think? Thank you everyone for the likes, for the shares, for the follows. Round there, get the rightness. I'm sorry, I don't get it. What do you think, guys? Is this phrasal verb transitive or intransitive phrasal verb? Excellent, Ava. It's intransitive phrasal verb. We can just say he chickened out. He chickened out. Magish, transitive. Okay, to understand whether a phrasal verb is transitive or not, just look at the end of the sentence. After chicken out, can you see someone or something? No, right? This phrasal verb doesn't need someone or something to complete the sentence. He chickened out. The sentence is complete. He chickened out. We don't need an object, right? That is, this phrasal verb is intransitive phrasal verb. Of course, we can add time, place, but they are not objects, right? And of course, if we don't use place, time, and finish the sentence with the chickened out, the sentence still makes sense. It's complete. Therefore, this phrasal verb is intransitive and inseparable phrasal verb, right? He chickened out. And of course, we know that this is an idiomatic phrasal verb. He chickened out of jumping into the pool. Exactly, Simon, but of jumping into the pool, you added another preposition there, a particle of jumping into the pool. It's of jumping into the pool. Object is when, sorry guys. Sorry, what is the direct object? Why is it called direct object? When you add something or someone directly to the phrasal verb. So if you say he chickened out jumping into the pool, jumping is a verb. Okay? Or if you say he chickened out the swimming pool, it doesn't make sense. Okay? So the thing is, you should always ask question who or what. Jumping doesn't answer the questions who or what. Also because out and then you added particle of jumping into the pool. Okay? Of course, your sentence is correct, but it's still intransitive phrasal verb. That's it. Okay? And what about another phrasal verb, to cheat on? I'm sorry, to cheat on. Cheat on. Yesterday's phrasal verb. To cheat on. Is this phrasal verb transitive or intransitive phrasal verb? What do you think? Guys, bear with. Don't go anywhere. I'll be back in 2 minutes. We are going to talk about transitive phrasal verbs and to do the exercises, okay? Excellent, Rena. It's transitive phrasal verb, right? Exactly. We cannot finish the sentence with a cheat on. We cannot say he cheated on. We need someone or something, right? When we use to cheat on as with the meaning of to not be faithful to your partner, right? Because again, guys, some of the phrasal verbs can be both transitive and intransitive phrasal verbs, right? Okay, guys, I'll be back in 2 minutes. Now, as I told you, transitive phrasal verbs are phrasal verbs that need an object, right, to complete the sentence. And some of the phrasal verbs can be both transitive and intransitive, like with wake up, right? We know that if we talk about ourselves, I wake up, we don't need an object. When we wake up someone else, then we need an object, like my brother, for example, right? I wake up my brother, I wake my brother up, or I wake him up. But the meaning stays the same, right? Doesn't matter, I wake up, the meaning is the same, or I wake up my brother, the meaning stays the same. However, sometimes you come across some of the phrasal verbs that change the meaning. For example, take off. When we talk about the plane, when a plane leaves the ground and starts flying, right? It's intransitive phrasal verb. The plane took off. We don't need an object here. It's stand-alone phrasal verb. It's intransitive phrasal verb. The plane took off. Easy, right? We don't need an object. It's intransitive phrasal verb and it's inseparable phrasal verb. Easy. However, we also know phrasal verb take off when it means to remove something, remove your clothes. For example, take off your shoes. Then take off becomes transitive phrasal verb and the meaning is not the same, right? Take off means to remove your clothes from your body, right? Here, this phrasal verb becomes transitive and it has different meaning. And this phrasal verb becomes separable. We can say, take off your shoes. We can say, take your shoes off, or we can say, take them off, if we want to use pronoun, right? So, some phrasal verb, take your shoes off, exactly, or take them off, or just take off your shoes. As you can see, take off can mean when a plane leaves the ground and starts flying, or it can also mean to remove clothes from your body. Take off your shoes. And it becomes transitive, separable phrasal verb. Okay? So, some phrasal verbs can be both transitive and intransitive phrasal verbs. Some phrasal verbs can be both, but the meaning stays the same, like with wake up. It doesn't matter whether you are talking about yourself or you are talking about waking up someone else, right? The meaning stays the same, whereas some phrasal verbs change the meaning depending on whether they are intransitive or transitive phrasal verbs, okay? Transitive phrasal verbs, I also call them stand together phrasal verbs, okay? With intransitive, I call them standalone phrasal verbs. And remember, they are always inseparable. And transitive stands together phrasal verbs. And they sometimes are separable, sometimes inseparable. Okay? So, and structure goes like this: subject, phrasal verb, and object, receiver of the action. Okay? It's not just the subject, I, you, she, he, it, is waking up. It's causing someone to wake up. The action is being done to someone or something else. Okay? So when the action is done to someone or something else, we always need an object. That's the difference between transitive and intransitive phrasal verb, guys. Okay? Okay, any questions? However, this live lesson will be uploaded on my YouTube. So if you want to watch it or just rewatch it, you can find this live lesson on my YouTube that you can find in my profile. Now let's do the exercise to make sure you understood the difference between transitive and intransitive phrasal verbs. Just let me know if you can see everything properly. Okay. Thank you, that's great. Well, the plane took off at exactly 7 p.m. It's intransitive. We already know that. Number 2, can you turn off the lights before you leave? What do you think? Is this phrasal verb transitive or intransitive phrasal verb? Can you turn off the lights before you leave? Do we have an object here? Great. Transitive, right? Transitive, excellent. Excellent, great. The lights are objects. It's transitive, right? Because the lights answer the questions who or what. In this case, what? The lights, right? So it's an object. Therefore, the phrasal verb is intransitive, and therefore this phrasal verb is separable. I need to pick up my parcel from the post office. I need to pick up my parcel from the post office. What do you think? Great. Transitive, Tommy, transitive, Mel, transitive. My parcel is an object. Very well done. Transitive. We have object, my parcel. What do you think? Is this phrasal verb separable? Can I say, I need to pick my parcel up, or I need to pick it up? Can I say that? What do you think? Excellent. Yeah, it's separable. We can say that, right? Number 4. He showed up late to the meeting. He showed up late to the meeting. To arrive. Showed up. To show up, to arrive. He showed up late to the meeting. Excellent. Tommy, to greet. Very well done. Hi, Yeba. Good morning. Guys, no worries if you are just joining. I mean, Yeba, Amal, today I'm gonna upload this live lesson on my YouTube, okay? Yeah, I explained transitive and intransitive phrasal verbs. So it's intransitive, right? Can we split this phrasal verb, meaning is it a separable phrasal verb? Can I say he showed late up? Intransitive. Can we separate this phrasal verb? It's inseparable. Excellent, so great, because we don't have an object. Here, late to the meeting answers the question when, not what or who, right? So it's not an object. It's inseparable phrasal verb. Number 5, she looks after her younger brother. She looks after her younger brother. Is it transitive or intransitive phrasal verb? What do you think? Excellent, Tommy, to greet our, it's transitive phrasal verb. She looks after her younger brother. Who? Her younger brother. Transitive. However, guys, as you already know, with intransitive phrasal verbs, it's easy because if it's an intransitive phrasal verb, they are always inseparable. Okay? Intransitive, inseparable. Intransitive equals inseparable. However, transitive phrasal verbs can be both separable and inseparable. In this case, we should always look them up in a dictionary, okay, or in this book. Look after is inseparable phrasal verb. We cannot say she looked her younger brother after. No. Okay, we should follow fixed word order. She looks after her younger brother. That's it. Number 6. We were sad when she went away to university. What do you think? Is it transitive or intransitive phrasal verb? Excellent, oh wow. Intransitive. Tell me. Yeah, great. It's intransitive phrasal verb. Because to university, it's not an object. It answers the question where. It's an object of a preposition. It doesn't belong to the phrasal verb went away. Okay? It's intransitive, therefore it's inseparable phrasal verb. Number 7, our old car broke down on the motorway. Our old car broke down on the motorway. Meaning it stopped working, right? The car stopped working, broke down. Intransitive, tell me intransitive, excellent. It's intransitive. On the motorway answers the question where, right? Therefore, it's inseparable. Could you bring back a souvenir from Italy? Transitive, excellent. It's transitive because we have a souvenir, right? What? Answers the question what? It's a transitive phrasal verb and separable phrasal verb. Meaning if you are on a vacation or somewhere and you bring something like a gift or I don't know, so bring back a souvenir or bring it back. Number 9, I finally found out the answer. I finally found out the answer. Transitive other, transitive until 14. Excellent. It's transitive. Why? Because we have the answer that answers the question what? Miriam, transitive. Exactly. It's transitive. I finally found out the answer. It's transitive. Phrasal verb. To discover, right? Number 10, he came over to my house for dinner. He came over to my house for dinner. Excellent answer, Miriam. It's Tommy. It's intransitive phrasal verb. Mel. Very well done. Why? Because to my house. Where? If here was he came over my house, which isn't correct, that it would be an object. But we cannot say he came over my house. Okay? It's incorrect because when we say he came over, it already means that he came to your house. But with came over, you already tell that. So you don't need here my house. Okay? So it's intransitive phrasal verb. Therefore, it's inseparable phrasal verb. Number 11, the chair fell apart when I sat on it. The chair fell apart when I sat on it. Intransitive, Yabe, Anto, Tommy. Tommy, it's transitive. Fell apart when I sat on it. Here, when already tells you that I don't belong to fell apart. Phrasal verb fell apart, right? You mean sat on? Yeah, fell apart is intransitive phrasal verb. Fell apart. Okay. When I sat on it, it's another phrase. It doesn't belong to fell apart as a direct object. So it's intransitive. Inseparable, of course. Number 12, she turned on the radio to listen to the news. Turned on the radio to listen to the news. What do you think? Excellent. Our Anto, Mel, Tommy. It's transitive. Why? We have the radio. And of course, it's separable phrasal verb, right? We can say she turned the radio on, she turned it on, she turned on the radio. And of course, guys, remember, if you use, if you want to use a pronoun, right? What is a pronoun? Instead of saying radio, we can say it, right? If you use pronoun instead of the radio, or she instead of an, or he instead of Tommy, and the phrasal verb is separable, you have only one choice. You should put it between here. Turned it on. And not she turned on it. If a phrasal verb is separable, okay? It's a mistake. You should put the pronoun only between. She turned it on. Exactly, Miriam. Turn it on or turn it off, and not turn on it or turn off it. It's incorrect. So it's transitive, right? Transitive, separable. Number 13. We were surprised when they dropped by without calling. We were surprised when they dropped by without calling. Exactly, answer 14. Ava, yeah. Well done, Amel. Intransitive, without calling. This information doesn't belong, this phrase doesn't belong to dropped by. To visit someone for a short period of time, right? To drop by. And it doesn't need a direct object. I hope they turn off the music soon. I hope they turn off the music soon. Well done, Amel. And so tell me, it's transitive. Turn off the music. What the music, right? And it's separable. Correct? Yeah, but it's transitive phrasal verb. What the music. And of course, it's separable. Turn the music off, turn it off, and so on. Number 15. My neighbor dropped by yesterday with a slice of homemade cake. Exactly. And so tell me about it's intransitive. Dropped by yesterday answers the question when. Therefore, it's intransitive, inseparable phrasal verb. Number 16. He's very good at looking after his elderly mother. Correct. Answer 14. Tell me, Ava, exactly. Amel, transitive. His elderly mother. Who? Elderly mother. And the last one, number 17. I'll pick you up from the station at 6. Transitive. Tell me, Amal, Yaba, transitive. it already tells us, right, that it's a transitive phrasal verb because it has an object between. I'll pick you up, right? Therefore, we have transitive, separable phrasal verb, right? Okay, great. Glad you understood the difference between transitive and intransitive phrasal verbs. And the same goes with the normal verbs, guys. Whether they are phrasal verbs or normal verbs, some of the phrasal verbs and verbs need an object, and some of them don't need an object. With phrasal verbs, it's really useful because if you don't see an object, you already know that this phrasal verb cannot be separated. This is an inseparable phrasal verb, okay? So why we need to understand grammar behind phrasal verbs? Because you can make educated guesses. Of course, you cannot always guess whether a phrasal verb is separable or not, especially with transitive phrasal verbs. But at least you know that intransitive phrasal verbs are always inseparable, okay? If you use intransitive phrasal verb, you already know that you cannot separate it, okay? And tomorrow we will have a look at phrasal verbs that have two particles. We already know that some phrasal verbs have only one particle, like this one, only one particle. And some of the phrasal verbs have two particles, right? We already know that first one is always an adverb. The second one is always a preposition, right? Tomorrow we're going to learn whether they are transitive or intransitive, and of course do some exercises on transitive and intransitive phrasal verbs and learn some of the new phrasal verbs tomorrow. Okay, if you are just joining, guys, I already explained the basics for beginners when it comes to the phrasal verbs. However, next week, hopefully on Monday at 11 o'clock, I'm gonna explain one more time from the beginning, okay? And then, of course, upload on my YouTube. And yeah, if you want to practice regularly, learn new, useful, commonly used phrasal verbs, must know phrasal verbs, you can join our Telegram community where I share exercises from the book, new phrasal verbs, commonly used idioms, where you can always ask me questions, and much more. On YouTube, for now, you can watch all our recorded live lessons about relative clauses. Relative clauses. Where is it? On relative clauses, meaning where is it? Like when to use who, which, that, whom, her, and so on. All the recorded live lessons on relative clauses you can find on my YouTube, okay? When it comes to books, it comes to the online classes, when it comes to my channels, all about me, you can find in my TikTok profile. If you don't understand something, send me a direct message direct message on TikTok. So I can respond you personally. Okay? And yeah, see you tomorrow. And yeah, we're going to practice phrasal verbs with the two particles and do some exercises on transitive and intransitive phrasal verbs. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for your gifts, for your shares, for your likes, for your follows, and so on. Just for being here with me. I appreciate you. I appreciate your support and see you tomorrow. Have a nice rest of the day. Thank you, Yaba. Thank you, Amal, Ava, Tommy, Anto, for being here with me. And yeah, have a nice rest of the day. Take care. See you.